Welcome, everyone. Back in the 1860s, a child was born who would, quite literally, go on to electrify the world. But we're not talking about his famous inventions just yet. Today, we're digging into the story of Nikola Tesla's childhood, a really formative time, a brilliant light, some very strange experiments, and the shadows that would follow him for the rest of his life.
And honestly, there's no better way to get inside his head than with his own words. He described his mind as this high-definition theater, playing images so real he felt like he could almost reach out and touch them, even push his hand right through them.
This internal cinema of his wasn't just some cool metaphor, it was the absolute source of his incredible ability to visualize. He didn't just think in words or abstract ideas, he saw them, fully formed and functioning, right there in his mind's eye.
Right. Today, we'd probably call this hyperphantasia. But for young Tesla, this was way more than a skill. It could actually be an affliction. He talked about being tormented by these blinding flashes of light and involuntary photorealistic hallucinations that he just couldn't turn off. But what's so incredible is how he learned to flip that switch to turn that affliction into his greatest tool. He came up with this unique four-step process for inventing. He would build and test entire complex machines completely inside his head, often without ever drawing a single blueprint. And this is the part that just blows my mind. The precision of these mental simulations was just astounding. He claimed he could run a machine in his head for years and literally see where the parts would start to wear down. It meant that when he finally built the physical prototype, it almost always worked perfectly on the very first try. And as we dive into the next part, just a quick reminder for you all. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give this video a like. All the information we're sharing is compiled from open sources. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so a mind this powerful really begs the question, where did it come from? I mean, was this just a spontaneous stroke of genius, or did it have its roots somewhere in his family heritage? Well, let's look at the sources. Tesla's parents were two very different people, but it's clear they both played a huge role in shaping his unique mind. On one hand, you had his father, Milutin. He was a very well-read scholar who trained his son's memory. But then you have his mother, Duka, who couldn't even read but was this practical genius who was constantly inventing things around the house.
And Tesla himself, he was completely adamant about where his inventive spark came from. He gave all the credit to his mother. He really believed he inherited her innate ability to see a problem and then just create a physical, elegant solution for it.
So with a mind like his and all of that inherited ingenuity, well, it's really no surprise that Tesla's childhood was filled with some, let's just say, strange and wonderful experiments. Oh yeah, for sure. Take one of his most famous, or maybe infamous childhood inventions, the June bug engine. No joke, he literally built a motor powered by 16 live insects he glued to a little windmill. And it worked. The experiment only came to a very abrupt and kind of gruesome end when a friend of his just started eating the engine parts. Exactly. And it wasn't just about building things, right? His curiosity just had no limits. He was always testing the laws of nature, even if it meant jumping off a barn roof with an old umbrella and knocking himself out cold. But, and this is a really important part of his story, there was a much darker side to this extraordinary genius. This immense mental power came at a psychological cost, and the problems started to show up very, very early in his childhood. Yeah, it seems the defining trauma of Tesla's young life was witnessing the tragic death of his older brother, Dane. Nikola was only 5 years old, and he carried this profound, lifelong sense of guilt for the accident. It really looks like this event was the catalyst for a lot of his later mental health struggles. And right at the very heart of all those struggles was a single number, 3. It started small, but it grew into a lifelong obsession that would end up governing nearly every single aspect of his daily life.
And this obsession was completely all-consuming. We're talking about having to circle a building 3 times before he could go inside, or all repeated actions, like his footsteps or washing his hands, had to be divisible by 3. His brilliant mind, this workshop for the future, had also become this cage of endless, exhausting rituals.
So when we start to put all these pieces together, you've got the visions, the family heritage, the wild experiments, and the trauma. What do we make of the young Nikola Tesla? He was truly a boy of contradictions, a genius who is also deeply, deeply troubled.
That's it exactly. At age 10, we aren't just looking at a clever kid. We are seeing a boy with this massive, complex, light-filled laboratory that is operating 24/7 inside his own skull.
Absolutely. It was a mind that was a source of both terrible torment and the most incredible invention. And it was this mix of light and shadow that really forged the complicated, brilliant, and troubled genius who was destined to change everything.
And I think Tesla's story leaves us with a really fascinating question, one that's worth thinking about. In a mind that powerful, where exactly is the line between genius and madness? And maybe more importantly, is it even possible to have one without the other?